So we've talked about vision boards or visualization, and this one is more about manifesting what you want. It's not just enough to visualize something, you need to manifest it. And in order to manifest something, you're basically getting yourself ready for what you want to happen. You're basically preparing your mind, your body, and your spirit to get what you want and doing the work to achieve that. You know, it removes self doubt and fear and the self talk stories that would normally stop you. And, you know, I put this in the context of art. I recently just finished a coloring book that was over 20 years in the making. I knew when I was doing it that that's what I wanted it to be eventually. But in the meantime, I could, I knew that's what it was meant for, and that's what I was practicing for. But at the time, 20 years ago, you couldn't do what you could today, not cheaply or reasonably. So, or self-publish the way that you can today. So I'm pretty much going to be using that as an example. I had a vision in my mind when I was doing artwork, you know, and practicing for the first time on a drawing tablet. And, you know, computers back then were slow, very slow. And it would take me sometimes a day or a week to finish one piece of the the drawing that would go in a coloring book. So, you know, it's not my best artwork, but it's a testament to how far we've come computer wise. But in my mind, I was visualizing this. The only thing that you could do with these at the time was put them up as worksheets and let people print them up for free. And, you know, it drew traffic to my website, so I was okay with that, and I was practicing an art skill. But what I was doing was manifesting what I wanted. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to publish something eventually, you know, and I wanted to be a computer artist and to go through the steps of learning something new. And, you know, the way of being an artist had changed. Now you could, you know, instead of like the newspapers relied on these graphics that they could pull up out of a book to use in the newspaper instead of something along that lines. Now you owned a book of graphics that you could do that with, and I wanted to make those graphics. So I was practicing an art skill, which is part of I can't even say the word manifestation. Is man manifesting something is I want this, and I'm going to practice and visualize myself walking through steps to actually accomplishing that goal. Now, I'm talking about this in the context of art, and you know, you're going to hear it over and over from different artists across the web, or you know, that you have to practice daily. You have to be consistent. You have to do something on a regular basis to get good at it. And what I was doing is every day at nap time, when my son went down for his nap, I would get on the computer and I would practice drawing with this drawing tablet. And I would save them, and then I put them together into a worksheet that went into the website that drew traffic, that got me more, you know, with the affiliate marketing clicks and stuff like that while they were there. So my website would make money, but it was a slow process. And I use it as an example a lot because I was doing something on a daily basis that would enhance my own art skills and manifest the I want to be an artist instead of I want to be, I am. I wanted to be a graphic artist. I did it on a daily basis. I was consistent. I made it a part of my daily routine. When my son was down for his nap, that's what I did. After they went to bed, that's what I did. And I saved those, and eventually I took the website down because I went back to school for computer programming. But I saved those, and I would print them up for my kids when they were little. And now I've got the full book put together, and um, it's a 240-page coloring book. And while I was making those, I was thinking, this is what this needs to be. Eventually, this needs to be a coloring book. If I could, but it was taking what exists, which is coloring books existed at the time, but getting them printed up I just looked into having these printed up, and it cost me like $13 to print them up. From a normal printer. Instead, now that you can go through Amazon and self-publish, it's way cheaper and more reasonable to do that. So I finally put the book together. But here's the thing. I occasionally would get overwhelmed with, this just isn't good enough. This, especially learning computer graphics, when you're wanting to draw, your ideal is drawing realistic as possible, or photorealism, that's what you have in mind. You might as well, at the time back then, go ahead and just go take a photo, because it was easier to do than actually drawing something up and scanning it into an old computer that ran really slow, that might take up 2 gigs, and that's the whole computer hard drive. It was just not feasibly possible. But I had it in the back of my head, and I would walk through these steps every day, and I did this probably for a year consistently, or something like that. Well, 240 something, close to that, days I would work on drawing a computer graphic on a drawing tablet. And if I let myself get overwhelmed, I had little steps that I would do every day. Well, I'm working on A today, because it was a children daycare provider website. I'm working on the letter A today for preschoolers. I'm working on the letter Z. I'm working on the letter R today. I'm adding activities in for XYZ today. And I would post pretty consistently every day, so that people would come back and look at the site pretty regularly. And this is kind of what you have to do with art. You have to be consistent. You have to practice, and you have to do it on a daily basis. You have to make it part of your daily routine, and not let yourself get so overwhelmed that you quit, which is easy to do. You can look at your skills, like mine back then. To me, compared to what I could draw in real life, were just cheesy. They were terrible. They're not, okay, but in my mind they were. So it was easy to get overwhelmed with, I got to add all this stuff, and I don't feel like I'm good enough, and blah, blah, blah. You have to make sure that to manifest something in real life is to overcome the negative self-talk. You have to keep reinforcing the positive self-talk and the believing you can do it part by doing it. You don't want to frame your manifestation with the negative talk of, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't think this or that, or you'll never do it. You always want to frame it around the positive, I can do this. So what I would do is, after I posted, my little celebration was to, go spend time with the kids after I got done doing X amount of work. Because one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be a good mom. So I balanced these times out, between I wanted to be an artist and I wanted to be um, efficient with computers, or, I wasn't going to let a computer beat me. Is basically the headset that I had. And so I would spend, sometimes, fighting with the computer, because the older computers would break down and get viruses and all this other stuff pretty easy. So I wouldn't sit around and think about, I can't do this. It's a matter of, I can do this, I just got to figure it out. And it would have been really easy to get impatient with my own skills on the computer, but I was, by doing that consistently every day, and, practicing my drawing skills, practicing my computer skills, practicing, you know, writing code, I got pretty proficient at it. But if you let it, you can get really frustrated with yourself, and then start being inconsistent because you're frustrated. Well, this is getting me nowhere, and you'll stop, and you'll go, instead of doing it daily like you should, you'll stop, and you'll go a week without touching something, or you'll go 4 weeks without touching it, and then you can't understand why your dreams aren't manifesting. Well, if you want to be an artist, you've got to practice doing art on a consistent basis. It doesn't mean that you're going to do one major art piece a day, like, because everybody wants to post, a couple times a day on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You can do cheesy stuff, practice your skills. I use the term cheesy to kind of describe some of this. We see these jokes and memes and stuff floating around that are pretty basic, but, they do practice humor and, wording and, stuff like that. But as far as art goes, and practicing your art skills, you in today's world, you really can't get by without using the computer. So, if you need to learn something, it's like Photoshop. I did all my fractal art when I was learning Photoshop. And it was real easy. I could have got really impatient with it and inconsistent, but I decided this is something I need to learn. This is what the industry is using. So I need to switch from CorelDRAW, which was what I was using, to Adobe. And I could have got really frustrated, but what I did the same technique. I practiced daily. I sat down daily. I spent 2-3 hours a day of my time or more doing that once a day for a year, until I had that computer program down. And I probably had it, down within the first month of just practicing loosely. And I've heard it said that manifesting something is, there's no timeline involved. And when you get down to it, I guess that might be true, because, I could have easily given up on a project that I worked on 20 years ago and just trashed it and go, well, this is out of date, or just give them away for free. But instead, I had a dream. I had a vision of what I thought those should be eventually turned into, or would really wished I could do at the time, and turned it into a coloring book for toddlers. Now, I could have given up on that dream, but it's something I set aside. Well, it can't be done right now, but eventually I'll be able to do this. And by setting that aside, all those worksheets and sheets that I did, and, I also didn't give up on the idea that I should be paid for my time and my work. I was getting paid through the website through affiliate links, so there was some income involved. but it wasn't enough to justify my time spent on that after the point of learning had been gotten to. So I put them aside and didn't give up on the idea. So you can't let yourself get impatient. What you may be working on something right now that, seems like nothing and doesn't matter to you. Well, it matters to you because you're learning or you're growing. But you can set something aside for 20 years and then get back to it and see it in a totally different light. But what I was doing is basically I was building those muscles in my mind that it can be done, and teaching myself to believe in that because I was seeing results. And I only saw those results because I took action to get those results. I mean, even back then, I did research. I didn't just look at the end goal of someday this will be a coloring book. I researched what I could do with them in the time being with the art skills I had and the computer skills I had was eventually this will be a coloring book. But right now it's this, this, and this, and I can do this, this, and this with it. And I would research about keywords and SEO, getting at the top of the search engine so I could, reach more people and more people would come to the website and support the website, which therefore supported me as an artist. But see, doing the work, it really, in the long run, wasn't about the website, and it wasn't even so much about, the end result being a coloring book. It was the learning process. I wasn't just looking at an end goal there. I was looking at the journey of doing all this. And, it would inspire you to believe that it would happen and it would build confidence. I had the confidence, and I still do have the confidence. If I really want to make a website work, I know how to do that. But I spent the time and the years learning about how to make a website work, and I went to school for it, and I learned more programming and learned more computing to back those skills. Now, I'm not saying that every artist needs to do that. In today's world, most people know how to work a computer at this point, or take a photo of their own artwork, or scan it into a computer file. But back then, we're talking at the internet explosion. I think I was on it kind of before it exploded. So I was a little ahead of the learning curve, and I would get advice from other people. But, it doesn't hurt to understand, in the middle of your process, if you can make it a part. Most people, when they do a piece of artwork, they kind of research how they want the figure to be drawn, or they'll do reference photos. They'll go and look for reference photos to put together on a piece of artwork that they're doing. Of course, the end goal is to end up with a piece of a masterpiece or something, but it's the journey of being an artist is what makes you an artist. And that's how you manifest it. You practice daily. You do sketches daily. One of the things that I did that helped me was I kind of went through a meltdown. And this kind of gave me the idea. I had all these things that I wanted to do. And, looked at my drawing skills and go, well, I need to study this, this, and this to improve my art skills. So what I did is I got a regular composition notebook and started putting together kind of what made me. And this is kind of trying to find your style as well. What contributed to my history, you know. So, you know, I went through, because I was thinking about doing comics there for briefly and drawing a couple of cartoon characters that maybe not will turn into a 3D something later on. Anyway, I was kind of researching whether I wanted to go back to art school or, you know, where I was going with this, because it's a journey, you know, and you do this daily and you research. You can't get stuck in the research phase, though. You know, you can look for all these different, you know, photos of a woman bent to the left or whatever, and that doesn't mean that it's actually going to become a piece of artwork unless you actually take the action and do it. Here's a different example. We'll take it out of the context of art. You can go and look at houses every weekend for the next year and not buy a house if your credit rating, you don't get your credit rating up and you don't have the income to actually buy one. You know, you can practice for the event of buying a home and knowing what you want and looking at houses and getting an idea of the market you're in, but you're still going to have to actually take the step. But building it builds your confidence that, okay, I've talked to realtors, I kind of know what I'm doing now, that the final step of actually buying the home becomes a part of the process. It's the end goal, but you have all this other legwork in there to begin with. Well, art is kind of the same way. You have this build up, and so is programming, to tell you the truth, or working with computer graphics, is you have this build up of skills that you've practiced. You know, I remember I've been drawing since I was really young. I think I came out of the womb wanting being an artist, that I used to draw, you know, or recreate characters that, you know, I was really into Bugs Bunny, and I would sit and draw Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse or, you know, stuff that I liked. I would collect things from magazines, and today it's so much quicker to do the reference and find things that you like, that it can be overwhelming and that you can bury yourself in just doing the reference photos and never actually producing the artwork. You have to make sure that you're still sketching on a daily basis, that you're still putting together something. So what I did, kind of to detangle my mind, is I got this composition workbook or journal when I was sick, and I started putting together, well, this is all the books I like, this is all the cartoon influences, and this is, you know, what, you know, movies I liked, and kind of sorting out to find my style. Um, I'm not a videographer or anything like that. I've done photography, and you know, I'm just now getting into video and was taking leave. Do I want to go into that? Do I want to spend money on the schooling that would put me in basically working with the movie industry or something like that? Do I want to do that? You know, so I went through and I made in this journal all the different kinds of artwork that I wanted to create. I went through a day of, well, let's research. You know, you have to have sponsors to back this stuff. If you don't have strong affiliate marketing to help you with your revenue, you know, that it's affiliate marketing is a nice side income, but it's never huge, or at least that was my experience of it. So I went through and I wrote down a bunch of different stuff of these are the people that actually pay for ads. And I wrote them all down, and these are the things that I could draw or paint that it might not add up to necessarily, well, I might sell a painting of it or not, that, that maybe if I did it recording me doing it, that it could end up to a sponsorship or something. You have to change your thinking that you're going to do this all by yourself, that you won't have people that support you. You have to have net income coming in to do art full time. So that's where my thinking was. So I made a list of sponsors. I made a list of these are the drawing skills I think I need to work on. There's a point in there where I drilled it down to breaking it down to, these are the things that I'm behind, and I went through a list of computer stuff or companies that I find inspiring, and I made a list of those. I even made a list of if I had money to buy stock, I would buy stock in these companies. Crayola Colors was like right at the top, so was Liquidex. But what I was doing with this journal wasn't necessarily art, but it was about my art. It was boiling down to these are the things I like, these are the things I don't like, these are the things I need to work on. And narrowing that down helped me narrow down ideas of this is the mural that I want to create. Just like there for, a decade, I worked on a sketch, and it was just an outline of this is a mural that I'm going to do someday. I came home from work and I practiced on my computer and I worked on my skills as far as drawing and everything else. But, it took a while. It took a decade with me working a full-time job to put that together, and I wasn't practicing every day with just painting, because I do a lot of different things. So, you need to narrow down your focus to actually get the mural done or the coloring book done. And now that I finished the coloring book, this was just a project that I just finished. Finishing that coloring book was like, oh, I finally did it. And I ordered the book, the author copies, and had them sent here. And I got to sit down and I got to watch my grandson actually color all afternoon. He played with us, and he was just really into it. And, it was just, you got to take time to celebrate when you finally manifest something, the whole reason we practice all this stuff is to get to here I was at the end goal. I had the book in my hand, and I got to hand it to my grandson and watch him color all afternoon. And I just really sat down and celebrated the win. I haven't really sold any, and what I'll end up going back and doing, well, I have sold. I've sold like 10, like boom, right off the bat, just mentioning it to somebody that I finally completed something. But you got to take the time and celebrate. I got that done. And then I'll go back to the drawing board and go, okay, how do I get it to sell now that I've done it? Because I've posted it online, and it's going to sit there. So I may do more research on how to get situated with keywords or whatnot, so I actually make sales. And here's the flip side. That's a 20-year project that, I don't want to say I spent 20 years on it, because I didn't. I spent probably a year, and then I spent another month putting it all together and getting it posted and everything else. And I probably need to focus on my keywording and maybe some ads to promote it. But you have to take the actions. If I just stopped with, I'm dreaming about making a coloring book someday, and not actually had drawn those worksheets to begin with, I wouldn't have a coloring book today, or I'd be starting from scratch. You have to start from somewhere, and you have to actually do the work. And that's what manifesting means. It's actually, I have a dream, and I'm going to work and take the actions to make that happen. I had a dream of doing this mural that I did, and it's huge, and it took, you know, probably, if you really want to be honest, if I'd added up the time that it spent just doing the outline and the sketch, the basic sketch, it probably took me, I don't know, a week or two, and then kept putting it to the side and setting it aside, and then I'd add another idea to it here and there. So there's hours involved in the research and the adding to it, and pretty much getting it the way I wanted it. And then, it took, I didn't let it go, is what I'm saying. I had a vision of what I wanted to produce or make or bring into existence, and then I took the action. It may have took me 10 years to get to the action, but I did finally get to it. There was I want to own my own house someday, and I bought a trailer when I was young and let it go, or sold it during the divorce. And, it took some time and some doing, but I manifested a house and bought a house that was appropriate for me. And now that I can do art daily, you have to do it daily. Even if you're working a full-time job, if it's really in you to be an artist, you're going to find time, and even if it's an hour a day, to manifest working on your skills, which boosts your confidence and your belief in yourself that you can actually do it. It's not just putting things on a vision board and assuming that they'll, because you put this vision board together, there's, I sit around and draw kind of outlines, because I took not AutoCAD. At some point, I was in an architect class in high school, that every now and then I will sit down and draw out, this is what I want my dream home to look like, and do that again, and it's kind of manifested into different architect plans for different kinds of houses, which I'm sure I probably could make some money on if I actually sat and did it the right way. But I draw it in my journal. This is my dream home. It's not enough for me just to sit around and draw it. It's taking steps to make the money to actually earn enough money to actually have that built. And that's what manifesting is. It's taking small steps all through the process. It's your journey. And you don't have to have all the answers. What you are is your student in this lifelong journey. And what you're building on your skills so you can manifest the reality that you want. I knew I wanted to be a good mom. One of the realities for me was I opened a home daycare. I did that to stay home with my kids so they had quality time with me. And I didn't do it with my youngest as much as I did with the older two. But the gist of it is, there's a stable bond between me and my children, because I took the time to be with them and still earn an income, that didn't deflect from them. It may have been less, but I still owned my own business, which was a goal for me. I still got to pay quality attention to children. I got to provide for them where they had, you know, they didn't have the top of the line and spoiled toys and everything, but they had what they needed. And by doing that home daycare, I was providing the kind of lifestyle that I wanted my kids to have. And I'm kind of happy to say I'm watching my oldest is in college and she's raising her youngin, and she's got them in the highest quality daycare, and she spends a lot of quality time with them, and she works on her homework, and she kind of manifesting my life all over again. And then my son, has two children, and works his job and spends quality time with his kids, and he's a active parent in their life. And I'm happy to see this, because me taking the time to make sure that I instilled that was important, they do as well. So this journal, or this composition book, is basically what you sit down and you think about what your real goals are. And sometimes art gets pushed to the side. And I sat down after my dad passed away at a young age. He was 57, which is still kind of young for passing, and sat down and thought about what I wanted my life to be about, and refocused again. I wanted it to be about my children. I wanted to be able to be healthy. I wanted to make sure that art was still a part of my life. And sitting down with a composition book and prioritizing things like that, you'll get to the back of the book. The back of the book is really the last page of it. Is these are the things that I need to draw and to balance out my portfolio. And in the process, I'm going to find my style. And what's interesting about me is I actually have a couple of different styles. I have this real folky one that is more cartoonish, that worked well with the coloring book. I have this fractal art side, which is more hippy dippy skippy. And then I have what I'm working on, which this going through and kind of prioritizing and sorting out your mind, you boil it down to, this is what I need to work on, and this is what I want to create, and you'll boil it down to a short list. And if you can do that, work on that, book. It took me maybe a month to kind of sort through my own thoughts, because I'm at a different phase of my life. And in different phases of your life, you sit down and you do this again. And you still prioritize, well, which direction do I want to go in now? And kind of recreate yourself. And because I've manifested the things that I wanted in my life. And I'm at a point in my life now where I've got the time to do all the artwork that I want. And it was so overwhelming that I can do anything I want, and to create artwork, that it just overwhelmed me, and then I didn't create any. And you can't do that. You have to sit down and clear out your thoughts. And one of the good things about doing this journal or composition book is it sorts out all the things. You put it down on a piece of paper, and it gets it out of your head, and then you can actually look at it and create the list of, this is what I really need to be doing. Another way to manifest, I found this useful, is I had the sticky notes, that you can buy in stores. I had it on my computer and I put 4 of them up there. And one was, this is what needs to get done today. This is what needs to get done within a week, and these are my long-term goals, and this is what I'm working on. And you kind of sort it out in priorities. This is today, this is the next week, this is what's got to get done this month, this is what's got to get done eventually. And if you can sort it out in your head and check things off on your daily, or and move something from that weekly to today, I'm doing it and getting it done, it gives you a sense of accomplishment and builds your confidence that I am working towards what I want in my life. And being an artist, it's so overwhelming, the amount of stuff that you want to do sometimes, that you won't create anything. So you really do have to sit down and just put it on pen and paper. And even if you check this thing later and only end up with a small short list, that's kind of your goal. This is where I need to focus my priorities on. I'm at a crossroads. I just finished a project, and I kind of end up taking a little bit of time each time, maybe a month, a week or two, to just kind of stop and celebrate. I just completed a major win here. I'm going to celebrate it, and then I have to stop and refocus and go, what am I working on? What's my next project? So I have an idea of what that's probably going to be, me posting sheets or individual sheets, or working on my keywording. And I'm working on I wanted to hone the skill on working with liquids and reflections, so I'm doing a whiskey glass, I'm doing a Jack Daniels painting, I have a mural that is sitting in front of me that I got to draw out. But I have kind of it surrounding me so I can see it and prioritize it and know that I'm taking steps along the way. Every day I get up and I'm looking at artwork that I've completed, so it gives me a sense of accomplishment and a part of, yes, you can do this. Yes, your dreams can become reality. I'm living it right now. But it would be just as easy for me to go, well, I've completed that, I've got my house paid off, I've got this taken care of, I've got that taken care of, and kind of I could just fall off the practicing every day and not get any artwork done. And it wouldn't manifest anything that I wanted. So you have to be sure that you're using your time effectively, especially if you're working a job. But once you get it down to, you've created some kind of it's not financial freedom for artists, it's financial time. You've made time for yourself to do art. Once you've whittled it down to you've got all the time in the world to do anything, you got to make sure that you're still prioritizing art. And I'm in a different life phase than, maybe some of you that are listening. I've kind of already been there, done that. got the trophy and went home with it. That, I have to come up with a new project, and, ones that will sell while I'm practicing a new skill. Right now, like I said, I'm working on reflections and liquids and stuff like that. And, maybe it kind of goes in with my life because we own family taverns that, to me, that is something that it's a part of my life, it's a part of my style. And I hesitate to combine manifesting with style, and it sounds cliche, but the more artwork you do, you start to see that you have a certain way of painting things or a certain way of doing things that ends up becoming your style. And a lot of artists get frustrated. Will you find your style? And they're like, what kind of answer is that? Well, it is the answer. The more you do on a daily basis, the more you'll find your style. But what the composition book does is help you narrow down what you need to focus on. Okay, I'm still, because I didn't have every hour and every day to give to art, and, you know, worked several businesses, that, you know, I'm just now getting back to the finding my style thing, and doing this on a daily basis is helping me find that. And it helps if you can join, some of the artist groups on Facebook or something, and see other people's artwork. You begin to recognize some of these people. You know that they're working on their artwork on a regular basis, and it helps to study them, because you can recognize their style the minute you see something they post, and it's because they're working on it. And if you study people that have already done it, it'll help you improve your own game. But here again, manifesting artwork, and I mean, artists are like the original magicians. They can take something from nothing and create something out of it that other people will want and cherish. And the more you study other artists that have done it, and are doing it, and listen to them, on a regular day, when I sit and I do art, I listen to other artists that are producing art that I admire. I listen to what they've got to say about it. I listen to, the pep talks and the stuff to keep me going. Manifesting is taking all the steps up to what's on your vision board. It's not just about your vision board. It's the daily practice. It's the taking action. It's coming to believe you can do it's coming to believe you can do what it takes to make your vision a reality. It's where you do the work to make it a reality. And it's the knowing you don't have all the answers, but you're training for and learning to make that work happen for you. And I've said this before, one of the reasons that I did the composition book or the journal book, is I've gotten in the habit. I've always had goals on a daily basis and gotten myself into a routine, so I was productive. But it helps clear out your head of all the garbage that isn't necessary, that's floating around in there. I had TV shows, I had music, I had different, I love music, so I've studied a lot about, I know more lyrics I got floating around in my head than anybody I know, Our music history is sitting there, that, kind of a hobby of mine when I was a teenager on up, to know all those facts. So it gets it out of your head and puts it on a piece of paper, and then you can file it and be done with it, and just get back to focusing on what it is you need to do for your art career, what you need to be learning to improve your art skills. Basically, manifesting is, at some point, you just keep on keeping on till eventually you just know it'll happen for you. Like that coloring book, I didn't sit and, oh my God, I gotta do this, or I'm gonna die. I knew eventually I'd make that happen. My mom brought up something to me. She's a realtor, and my whole family's in real estate. And she brought up to me something, I don't know, 20 years ago. Not 20 years ago. Well, somewhere along the line, that I should do housewarming gifts, paint pictures of people's houses for her or for other realtors. I might eventually do that. I have to sit down, and I'm at this refocusing point myself. What is it that I want to manifest? I've pretty much got what I want done. I just don't have this big long list of things I've got to have. So here's an example. I'm on Social Security, so my income's low, but my house is paid off, and I'm financially stable through all that. But there are things that I want to buy. I know I'm gonna need a new car eventually. I know I'm going to need a new furnace here eventually. I want to replace my garage. I mean, so how am I going to make money as an artist to fill the gap is one of the things I'm focusing on now, where you may need the extra income. Maybe your job doesn't pay enough, and you want to replace that, and you'd like that to be in an art field. Um, you you become a student. You listen to other artists and hear what they're saying about which direction to go in, or um, it's real easy, and I've said this in my last video, that you'll end up going down the artist rabbit hole where you got um, you learned a little bit of everything and master of none. And what the journal does, journaling gets it out of your head so you can focus on what matters and which direction you really should be going in. So I did my journal probably like that, trying to get clutter out of my head. Um, Probably 8 months ago, and I finished 2 major projects since then. And it's time to refocus, because I know these things that I want need to manifest eventually, and I got to have income for them. So, I'm going to sit down and do another journal like that and refocus again, and take a look at that last page and see how much of that I've got done, and maybe pick up the pace on that. But all these little drawings add up to one big mural, is what I'm trying to say. I got one big mural done, and there's another one that I want to do, and I just ordered the paints for it, and I hope they're enough, because I bought small tubes. But I'm going to be working on rose-colored glasses theme, and on a 4 foot by 4 foot, well, maybe 5 foot mural. And working on my painting skills, I decided, I had almost 100 or a year's worth of fractal artwork done, and I lost pieces of that. So, and I plotted that out and put it in a calendar, and I'm working on baby steps I want to make sure I have 365 days a year worth of fractal artwork to show people and to rotate. And I know it's not making me any money, but it's something that I want to do that keeps me working on my graphic art skills. So that's something else I'm going to do. And you narrow it down to, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to be working on. Maybe I'm not really good at drawing hands, because most artists complain about, man, drawing hands really hurts. Maybe I need to practice doing eyeballs for a while, or my figure drawings, or, what it is you enjoy drawing. Okay, and maybe figure drawing isn't something you enjoy. Maybe you enjoy landscapes. Maybe you enjoy, coming up with cartoon characters. You narrow it down, and then you find and I hate to say it, because it's becoming so cliche for everybody to say, find your niche. I'm across the board. I got a broad spectrum of things that I like to do. So saying that to me is very hard, but in the same breath, it needs to be said. You need to narrow down your focus to get good at something, and do it on a regular basis that you're really good at it. And it does manifest into, this is my style, this is how I do something, and this is, um, going to be easily recognized eventually by other people, that, oh, that's Dana's stuff, or that's Susan's stuff, or that's Andy's stuff. after a while, people start to recognize your work. And I guess, eventually you get into, well, how do they sell those $1 million paintings? I want to know. Or how much do I sell this for? And then you start getting into the art sales, which is a totally different topic. Um, but it's part of manifesting because you got to learn how to sell your own artwork, or where to, or how to, or there's so many different avenues for that maybe you spend your time when you're not working on your art, learning a new skill or practicing or coming up with your next masterpiece, that you research on how to market and sell your stuff. I found doing photography that selling was not near as scary as I thought it'd be. But you want to keep it positive. You don't want to manifest on what you don't want. You want to manifest on what you do want. You want to stay away from that starving artist, oh, I'll never make it kind of deal. What you want to do is develop your skills, so you're reinforcing the I can do this. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing a job. I got the confidence behind me. People are going to like this. In all my years of doing art, really, I think I had maybe 5 people complain at the photo studio, and they were really difficult customers, and they were kind that I wouldn't invite back anyway. So, my competency level has increased as I've gotten older because I've practiced this on a regular basis. I've done some form of art on a regular basis, except for the couple of years in there when I was married in my first marriage. um, I've always done art, whether it's sold or not. But, it is something to think about. Maybe you've gotten your skills down to, you're manifesting good artwork, but now you need to work on, well, how am I going to sell it? And I kind of divide these up into different categories, but I guess it applies to what you do in photography can apply to other artwork, and maybe I'll get into that topic next on selling something. But that's my take on manifesting what you want in your life. You got to focus on, what it is you want, what your end goal is, and the steps in between to make that end goal happen. And that's part of manifesting, is thinking about those steps in the middle there, the process, and breaking it down and honing those skills. But I'd like you to take away, make sure that you celebrate the small wins or the big wins, and take the time. Don't go from one project to the next project. I mean, practice daily like you should be, but, take a moment and just breathe in. It was so great to see my grandchild actually coloring stuff that I created for when my son was the same age at 3 years old. It was just such a my whole body smiled. I was just so happy to see him enjoy it, and him dragging around his coloring book and his colors, and, and us going over what color was what and all that. And just, I got to finally breathe it in and enjoy it. So make sure that you're celebrating the wins. And that's my take on manifesting. Have a great one. I'll see you on the flip side.